Hey, it's Mike the Disgruntled Mechanic. Today what we're going to do is we're going to use the Picoscope to do a relative compression test. I did another video doing a relative compression test with Picoscope software, but this is the Picoscope automotive software, and as the name implies, specific to automotive. What I want to do with this relative compression test is I actually want to show you how you can figure out which cylinder, if there is a cylinder that has low compression, how you can figure out which cylinder is which, so you know which cylinder to concentrate on that would have the low compression. So we're going to get this Picoscope hooked up and we'll go from there. Just a bit of a disclaimer, you know, this is for entertainment only. I am learning on this as everyone else is, so I show the basics in this because some people have asked for it. It's me learning, and it's trying to help other people learn. Anyone who can do better or knows better, that's fine. This is not for you. This is doing the basics and basic testing. So there you go. That's what it is, and we will start from there. Since I'm going to start out with the basics, I'm hoping you can see this on the computer. I don't want to zoom in because I want to make sure that you can see everything here. But of course my USB is hooked up from my Pico to my laptop. I have the Pico diagnostic software and I have the Pico automotive software. I'm going to open the Pico automotive software. We'll open up the software, get that set up, and then I'll show you how I'm going to hook up the cables accordingly on the vehicle. I'm running this on a Windows 10 laptop, which it is compatible with. The software can be downloaded from Picoscope's website. I know I'm going to miss some stuff here, folks, and if I do, or there's questions, or you don't understand something, put it in the comments. I'll try to help you out if I can. I'm trying to be as explanatory as possible, or explain the best I can. Alright, so here we are. We've now opened up the Picoscope Automotive. Now to do this relative compression test, the way I set it up, let me zoom you in. The way I set it up is I go into Automotive is one of your tabs up here, charging and starting, and then there is an option for relative compression and then petrol. So now what this does is this loads your test. It automatically puts it in. But the nice thing about this software is when you're hooked up to the internet, it will actually send you to their, I'm sorry, I don't know if you have to be hooked up to the internet, but what it'll do is it will open it up and show you how to perform this test and how to do your hookups. So that's pretty cool. There was a quick example of what it looks like, and down here it says the settings, just load it or record it with a different device, but it actually does give you a good example of what you should do. I'm not going to read through this, but this opens it up for how to do the relative compression. Current clamp onto channel A, which, see, we're not going to exactly follow this because we're doing more than a relative compression. We're doing a relative compression with finding the correct cylinder. So we'll close that out and we'll minimize that. And then it has the setup already for A channel, which is the clamp. So, okay, I lied. We'll leave the clamp on the A channel to get our compression. And I'll show you how to hook that up. But it automatically put in the settings for that. So now what we need the settings for also is the settings on channel B, so that we can find which cylinder we're on, which this will start to make sense as I go on, I hope. But what we'll do is we will put channel B at 10 volts and DC. And that's what our probe will go on. And I'll show you the stuff that I'm going to hook up when I get back. and actually this is the hookup to the Picoscope to the car. So what I'm using first in the hookup to the scope is, this is the 2000 amp max current probe TA167 from Pico. I bought the whole kit from AES Wave with the 4425 scope and this, so that's where it came from. So this is going to go on your BNC connector, is going to go on channel A. So that's your amp clamp. Then what we're going to put on here is, this is the auto probe, and it's the MI0174. I think that's an I, but anyhow, all this came from AES Wave 2. So we're going to hook up the BNC connector to channel 2. And then we're going to make the in-car hookups. That's really all there is to it. And I'm going to give you some insight in some of the stuff I learned when I was first doing this. And some guys may have no problem with this, but for me doing it, and I was in a hurry to get to do it and learn it, well, you forget some things, but at least I do. So we'll get into that. So with the amp clamp, it's the 2000 amp clamp. What you first want to do is, you're going to make sure that when you put this on your positive, that it shows it's the current flow, and you want the arrow pointed that way. Then the other thing you want to do is make sure that you turn this up to put it on the 2000 amp setting. So we're going to put this on here. And the one thing I learned is this has a timeout. So if you're taking your time and you mess around too long till you actually try it, this will be turned off and you won't get a reading. So that's one thing I learned. So we'll put that on there, and we got our flow going that way. Want to make sure no wires are caught anywhere. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our ignition probe here, and just because it's handy and it's close, we're going to go on the number 6 plug wire. So we want to put that on there, make sure that's on there, and then of course with this we're going to go to ground. So now that should basically be the hookup we need to get the relative compression and figure out what piston is what. I'll explain that as we do it, but let's crank it over and see what happens. Whoa, Simba, before you go cranking stuff. Now what I did, let's show how we set the computer up. What I did was, I'm going to go down here to the trigger, and I am going to hit single. So I just get the single event of the starting sequence. That was number 1. That was the first thing I wanted to say. The way I'm going to crank this so that it doesn't start is, this vehicle has a clear flood mode. And what I did was I used one of the brake pedal, gas pedal, steering wheel, I don't know what the correct name is, keepers for it, prods, whatever. But I used that to hold to press the accelerator pedal, and the other end's on the steering wheel. I'm sure you've seen them. So that's where we're at. We're going to put it on a single event. That's where it's going to trigger at, right where that little yellow diamond's at. And then what we're going to do down here is just go to start. Hope we're showing 2 lines, which we are. I'm going to check that my clamp's still on, which it is. We're in clear flood mode, so let's go crank it and see what happens. Let's hope the battery has enough snot in it. Alright, so now we cranked it, and what we should have here is this red line should be when number 6 fired. So what you need next is you need the firing order of this vehicle, because that's number 6. Then you got to figure out the numbers on your cylinders. Now this is a waste spark system. I'm assuming that's where the other one, where it did the waste spark, but the high ones, the high voltage ones, are your actual your number 6. And as you can see, the humps are all pretty even, which is a good thing. So let's figure out our firing order and we'll go from there. So the firing order of this particular vehicle, which is a 1999 Buick LeSabre, is 165432. So 6, I'm going to read this off the paper so that I do it right. So that's 6543, which is actually its companion cylinder. 2, 1, and then our 6 again. So that all works out. Now you can actually get in here, blow this up. We'll do it quick, but for my purposes, we're actually seeing what we want to see. Once again, that's number 6 that we're on. So it's 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 6. So that's the firing order. That's what it looks like. We'll get in here quick, just to show you if we want to capture. I'll see if I can do it, because I'm not too good at this. As I said, I'm learning. So let's go here. And we should get a better look at it, which we do. So now you got your we went through the numbers. I'm not going to go through them again. We can see number 3 looks a little weak, but that's where we're at with that. So if you had one drop out, you would now know which one it was, which cylinder. You can concentrate on that cylinder. So that's basically what I wanted to show today. So there you have it. That's how to do the relative compression test, and with that relative compression test you would know which cylinders you're looking at, and you would know if you have one that's not as healthy as the other ones. The next actual video that I hope to do in this series, or whatever you want to call it, is I have a 2002 Buick that I was told the head gasket's bad on, and that's one of the reasons it doesn't run properly. The only problem with doing that one is it's going to be noisy and it's going to be loud because it has an exhaust leak, which I'm not going to fix, because eventually this vehicle is going to the scrapper. Unless I get some donations and somebody wants to see me put the head gasket on it, we do it. But I'm not going to buy this stuff and mess with it, because basically it's junk. It would be fun, but we'll see what happens. So anyhow, this is Mike the Disgruntled Mechanic, just saying, remember, if you can get somebody else to do it, you're probably better off. Thanks, take care, see you next time, bye.